G'day guys. This is taking a bit of a look at cancer and a different sort of, take on it and TMAO. So, up until now, we've probably heard a lot from, epidemiological research and stuff like that, that TMAOs are sort of associated with this disease and that disease. I think we covered the cardiovascular side. This time we're going to cover the cancer side, because there's also, a lot of nonsense out there that TMAO will increase your cancer risk and stuff like that. It's again associated studies, like all the other junk that exists out there. It's just associated claptrap. It's just like, remember when I schooled that little young child, Ian, when he sort of challenged me with a meta-analysis on LPS, on endotoxemia. And what he did was he provided me with a very poor meta-analysis, where most of the research was very poor quality research, indicating that it was, saturated fat. But there was one high quality study in there, and there was actually a slightly so-and-so study that also showed that saturated fat was potentially a problem, done by the same group. So there was two of their studies included. The second study, on the other hand, was done at a high quality. So it was actually experimentally. There was a bit, it was more controlled, more experimental. And as a consequence, that higher quality study that the same group had made, now the other studies were very poor. I mean, really poor, so, and it showed the complete inverse relationship. So yes, that's the problem with meta-analyses of crap. When you add crap data in, you get crap data out. It doesn't matter how much the crap that you lump together. It's just the way it is. So it's not a good idea to look at that sort of stuff, because it doesn't really enlighten anyone. And it usually is very much a misdirect. It usually poisons, the well, so to speak, in terms of, truths, understandings, having a much deeper understanding of what's going on and stuff like that. And when people, especially when it comes to cancer and things like that, people's lives are on the line, I consider that criminal, in my personal opinion, criminal. Anyway, now let's take a look at this aggressive type of cancer. And I'll just share my screen for a sec. So this is from the American Cancer Society, triple negative breast cancer. So this TNBC, as they call it. So when you see TNBC, it's this triple type. Accounts for about 10 to 15 of all breast cancers as a percentage. The term triple negative breast cancer refers to the fact that cancer cells don't have estrogen or progesterone receptors, and also don't make any or too much of the protein called HER2. The cell tests negative on all three tests. These cancers tend to be more common in women younger than age 40, who are Black, and who have BRCA1 mutation. So TNBC differs from other types of invasive breast cancer in that it tends to grow and spread faster, has fewer treatment options. I wonder, could an animal-based diet help here? Let's see. And tends to have worse prognosis, basically outcomes. So we're not going to bother looking at the signs, symptoms, and all that. I'll put a link, people can check and all that. If there's been cancer in your family, you should do a genetic test to find out whether you have this mutation or not in that regard. Anyway, now let's take a look. There is a thing called polyripetosis. So this is a recent publication in the Journal of Experimental and Clinical Cancer Research, and a new paradigm of cell death for fighting against cancer. So unraveling the mystery of cell death is one of the most fundamental progresses of life sciences during the past decade. Regulated cell death or programmed cell death, I've talked about before about causing apoptosis, is not only essential in embryonic development, but also plays an important role in the occurrence and progression of disease, especially cancer. Escaping cell death is one of the hallmarks of cancer. Yes, doesn't want to die. Yes. Main body. Polyripetosis is an inflammatory cell death usually caused by microbial infection, accompanied by the activation of inflammasome. And we know another thing that actually helps with inflammasome. I wonder what it is. Oh, that's right, taurine. But it's not about taurine this time. But it does help with inflammasome. So just for a reminder, so it does help here as well. Maturation of pro-inflammatory cytokine interleukin 1b and interleukin 18. Gastrinine family proteins are the executors of polyripetosis. Okay. So, cytotoxic N-terminal of gas generated from caspase. I've talked about caspase in the past. Okay. And you know that taurine actually is involved with that as well. So anybody wants to go and get a bit more detail about these sort of things, they can check my cancer playlist that I cover all this sort of stuff in greater detail. And I'm not going to do it here because I'm trying to keep the time limit lower. So I'm not going to read the rest of that. Polyripetosis exerts tumor suppression. Got it? So this thing actually causes tumor suppressant functions and evokes anti-tumor immune responses. I wonder what else actually causes immune responses that the Vagoons always talk about. We see these immune responses, associated stuff. I wonder what they're doing. Oh, well, if you investigate a bit, you may find out what they're doing. If you don't, because you're a fool, you're not interested in learning, you won't. You'll just say, oh, there's an immune response. Must be a bad thing. Well, not all immune responses are a bad thing. They can be good things. But you have to look into them to find out exactly what's happening. Therapeutic regimes, including chemotherapy, radiotherapy, targeted therapy, and immune therapy, induce polyripetosis in cancer. Yes, we know. Other things, some of these things like chemo, radiotherapy and all that also cause another issue. Guess what that is? A lot of poisoning of good cells as well. That's a problem. Now, we know that we can use in chemo and radiotherapy, we can use high doses of taurine to protect against this sort of damage, this excessive reactive oxygen species sort of damage that happens. But, are there other ways? I wonder what they are. Which potentiate local and systemic. So not only does this upregulation of polyripetosis in cancer, actually in cancer cells, okay? This is not inducing it in normal cells, in cancer cells, which potentiates local and systemic anti-tumor immunity. That's important, especially if you're metastatic and it's spread, not only in the local places, you want to go everywhere. Yes. On the other hand, apoptosis of normal cell attributes to side effects of, on the other hand, apoptosis of normal attributes to side effects of anti-cancer therapy. So, anyway, in the reviews, regulatory mechanisms. So we're looking at mechanisms here, very important. Apoptosis, the tumor suppression function. Apoptosis, we discuss the attributes of apoptosis in reprogramming. Very important. Reprogram, remember, they are trying to escape cell death, those little cancer buggers. And reprogramming tumor microenvironment and restoration of anti-tumor immunity. Really important. And its potential application in cancer immune therapy. So they want to basically use drugs, obviously, to increase this apoptosis effect in order to kill off these cancer cells. Got it? Well, that's what, this is just another. What do you think most money goes to? It goes to this sort of stuff, So especially a lot of things in Journal of Experimental and Clinical Cancer Research is all about finding mechanisms and processes in the body, but at the end of the day, not looking for natural compounds, but pharmaceutical compounds that can induce these effects. So, is there something that can actually deal with this before TMAO kills you, as the Vagoons would say? Or is TMAO the solution? I wonder if that's the case. Let's take a look. Cell metabolism. The microbiome metabolite TMAO promotes anti-tumor immunity in triple-negative breast cancer. Got it, Vagoons? There it is. Read it and weep. Cell Metabolism is one of the most prestigious magazines, publications out there, journals. They don't actually add, they reject a lot of other studies that other journals actually have. This is like, the creme de la creme, the top sort of stuff. Bart's talked about this before. Cell Metabolism is one of these top periodicals. They're very strict in the sort of literature that they actually print. They don't print nonsense. They look at mechanistic studies, experimental studies, really high quality shit. So other publications, they'll print anything. These guys won't. So you can actually say that these are good mechanistic studies, and that's what we really want, good quality mechanistic studies. The rest of it is just unimportant. So, yes. And, obviously, we know that apoptosis also helps with a whole lot of other cancers. Okay? So, how does it all work? I wonder if apoptosis is involved. Let's see what is happening. Because I'd like to know how TMAO is doing this anti-tumor immunity stuff. So, yes, you may have an association between TMAO and the immune system, but the question is, what is the relationship, my dears? Just seeing an association doesn't tell you anything. But crackpots say, oh, there's an immune response. Yeah, but what is it doing? Is it clearing out stuff that shouldn't be there? Getting rid of the junk in the body? Or is it actually promoting, there's things that it can be promoted that are good, things that, So let's take a look. Oh, my dear. Look at it and weep, my dear Vagoons. Look at it and weep. Non-responders, very little TMAO. Well, what you get is you get CD8 plus T cells. A few of them here, you know, but they're not activated. They're going around. These are, you know, cancer cells. But yeah, oh well. Tumor cells going around. Oh well. I don't want to put the effort in. I'm lazy. I need to be activated. I need the magic molecule to go ding, 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 and much of it. If you don't have enough, it doesn't do it. So having a bit of TMAO isn't going to do it. Having a lot of TMAO isn't going to do it. So it activates CD8 T cells. Ah, yes, our lovely T cells. And they will induce this high pyroptosis tumor in tumor cells and blast them to oblivion. Look at all these active T cells taking out the cancer cells. Oh, God. It's like, no, I better not say it. Yeah. Depends on whether it's a life and death thing that's happening when you're on your back. Anyway, get your head out of the gutter, Harry, and keep on explaining this to the young ladies, in particular, but also the gentlemen that may be interested in other cancers. Anyway, so yes. So here reports that this group reports metabolite TMAO enhances CD8 plus T cell mediated anti-tumor immunity in triple negative breast cancer, the most aggressive breast cancer for young women. And what do they tell them? Go plant-based. Oh, yes. You'll have very little TMAO if you do that. What will happen? You will die, young lady. Or suffer a lot of poisoning from, yes, those other methods. And possibly losing your breasts as well. Chopped off. And we're not talking about a trans experience here either. Anyway, triple negative breast cancer by inducing pyroptosis in tumor cells, revealing insights into microbiota metabolite immune crosstalk. Yes, nothing like having a conversation, close and personal. The findings indicate that microbial metabolites represent a potential therapeutic strategy to promote the efficacy of immunotherapy in TNBC. At least they're looking at something outside pharmaceuticals. Thank the Lord for that. Anyway, highlights. Metabolite TMAO correlates with improving efficacy of immunotherapy in TNBC. TMAO inhibits tumor growth by activating CD8 plus T cells. So it activating, see this, activating. So TMAO actually activates your T cells to do anti-cancer work. Wonderful, isn't it? So your T cells can go after bad cells. Very important. Mediated anti-tumor immunity. TMAO activates anti-tumor immunity by inducing pyroptosis of tumor cells. So there's two mechanisms. One, activating the T cells. The other, inducing inside the tumor cells this pyroptosis, this cell death. TMAO precursor choline, yes, enhances response to immunotherapy in TNBC. Remember, you need choline in order to produce TMAO. Without choline, it's the key one. So let's take a look at the summary. Immunotherapy has achieved limited success in patients with TNBC. That's traditional immunotherapy with drugs. It gets the Roman down finger from the emperor. Yes, yes. An aggressive disease with poor prognosis, we know. Commensal microbiota have been proven to colonize the mammary glands, but whether and how they modulate the tumor microenvironment remains elusive. Yes, because it requires TMAO for that to happen. We performed multi-thymic analysis of cohorts of patients with TNBC 360 and found general underclostridials and the related metabolite TMAO were more abundant in tumors with an activated immune microenvironment. Patients with a high plasma, got to have a high plasma. You can't just have the occasional egg, like you need to eat a lot of animal foods, and a lot of animal foods will give you heaps of TMAO. This is why I've asked my people to go on to a more animal-based diet while doing the deuterium depletion and other protocols. This is the other part, which now they're learning about. Don't want to give too much away to the competition. Achieved better response to immunotherapy. Mechanistically, we love mechanistic studies. TMAO induced polyripetosis in tumor cells by activating the endoplasmic reticulum stress kinase PERK and thus enhanced CD8 T cell mediated anti-tumor immunity in TNBC in vivo inside an organism, a human, not in a petri dish. Collectively, our findings offer new insights into microbiota, metabolite, immune crosstalk, and indicate that microbial metabolites such as TMAO or its precursor choline, yes, we love choline, may represent a novel therapeutic strategy to promote, and a cheaper one, the efficacy of immunotherapy in TNBC and a whole lot of other cancers, because this works in a whole lot of other cancers as well. Okay, because even the Journal of Experimental and Clinical Cancer Research tells us that this works in a whole lot of other cancers. So this research is just looking at this specific type. So if people want to read it, so this video doesn't become too long, we're not going to do that. Okay. Just reminding you, it's basically that immune activating role that it has. Obviously, they did some experiments also with rats because they deliberately gave them cancer, this breast cancer, so then they could actually see how TMAO would actually reduce it. There's the control, there's the TMAO, there's substantial difference between the two. You can see the activity inside. Yep, it's being killed off. So people can check those out. TMAO inhibits the growth by activating those T cells, okay? And through this mechanism, it induces tumor cell death. There's more research here covering all these sort of things. So you've got animal research that they did. A choline-rich diet upregulates TMAO levels by commensal microbiota. And this is what we're told by the vagoons constantly. Oh, if you eat choline-rich foods, animal foods, you're going to produce so much damn TMAO. It's that damn choline. Even though acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter and choline actually exports fat out of the liver, guarantee you non-fatty liver. Yeah, but it's still bad. It's bad because the vagoons say it's bad. Next, we investigated the correlation between TMAO and metabolic precursors. So they discovered that the level of choline was positively correlated with TMAO. Well, we know with mechanistic studies that it is. So it's nothing new there. And the Vagoons have told us that it happens, and they've even done their own little experiments to prove that it happens. So we know, everybody knows. There's shitloads of experiments and data, but everybody thinks it's bad, but it's not. Where L-carnitine also or betaine also increases, but we're not significantly correlated with TMAO. They won't. They do increase a bit, but not a lot. These other things. So don't expect to supplement with L-carnitine or betaine and get an increase in TMAO. Not going to happen. You've got to get choline. And I've told people on to use choline, taurine, those sort of things, the inflammasome part, and many other anti-cancer, anti-apoptotic, and protective things, and improvements to the electron chain, and goes on and on. You guys know it. You go and check the cancer stuff, you'll find the stuff there. So, my dears, as you can see, our dear Vagoon friends, and you can actually see it plays a big role what you eat. So and tumor TMAO levels. As you can see, choline is the one that, so the more in the diet, the better. So, and the CD8 plus cells, the T cells, you can see choline is the one that increases the most. And the more choline, the better. If you're using lower amounts of choline, you're going to get less results. And these are got good p-values, as you can see, less than 0.001, which means the likelihood that it happened by accident is unlikely. Okay, so if you want higher levels of these things, you gotta eat your choline-rich animal foods. Got it? So anyway, we'll leave it at that in that regard. So pretty much it's quite clear. Animal foods that are high in choline. Now there's a video that I made that actually covers this, but I'll just quickly, I'll add this as well. And just let me just share this. So that's get rid of that. Top 10 foods highest in choline. As you can see, 100 grams, which is 3.53 ounces. 3.53 will give you 21%. So if you consume, and we want to go much higher, so it'll probably end up being supplemental or eating a hell of a lot of eggs. Anyway, so remember 100 divided by 28.3. is 3.53 ounces. So whenever we talk about that, so pretty much chicken has similar levels to fish like salmon, pork a bit less, eggs are the big one. So as you can see, 4 eggs, because 27%, 4 eggs will give you 100%. I have 6 eggs a day because I do have a genetic thing with choline. So I have to have more. So there you go. 4 eggs, ladies, not difficult to swallow. Meat, beef has a bit less. So if you're going to get 100% from beef, if you're doing a sort of lion type diet where you're only having beef, I think that's what it is, isn't it? Anyway, so if you want to try and get the 100%, divide that by 14 times 100, you'd have to have about at least, let's say, 715 grams. Divide that by 28 point, that would be minus 16, 1 pound and 9¼ ounces would be. So you're nearly looking at 2 pounds to get the equivalent from beef. And that's 550 milligrams per day. I prefer people to be on 2 grams if they've got cancer. I want a lot of TMAO in their system to basically deal with those cancer cells. Got it? Anyway, so that is your information. So you know now that TMAO is not going to cause cancer. It's going to protect you from cancer. And it will basically tell those cancer cells to take a hike out of your system and go and die. So it will help the immune system take them out, liquidate them, So in combination with low deuterium, with good sleep, with blue blocking, lowering improving your melatonin so we can improve the electron chain, we can heal the mitochondria. All these things will mean that your normal cells won't go rogue. You'll look after them and improve them. And your cancer cells will be put under a lot of stress with all these things that we're doing. That is why an animal-based diet is actually achieving the results. It's because the nutrients and metabolites in animal foods, like TMAO, like taurine, like choline, have these advantages that work with the immune system, work with the body to clear out the garbage. Got it? So an apple a day will not keep the doctor away, but an egg a day, a steak a day, that will definitely keep the doctor away, especially if you do it for many years, and you sustain, you've come out of the previous battlegrounds of the sad diet environment with less damage. So how quick you'll restore to better health will depend on how bad you are already. So if you're in a more cancerous state, it's going to take a bit longer. But these things can help. These animal nutrients, with some of the other biohacks of fisetin, senolytics, and a whole lot of other things that I've talked about in my cancer playlist, all these combinations will help. Now, obviously, you can't supplement TMAO, but what you can do is you can get the next best thing. Eat choline-rich foods, or eat or supplement choline up to 2 grams. there you go. You've got your instructions and your information. Anyway, take care and see yous